He had no sword, no spear, no weapon of any kind, just his hands, and whatever God had put inside of them. The lion never saw it coming. Neither did he. This is the story of a man who could tear a lion apart with his bare hands, and still couldn't escape the trap a woman built for him.
Samson.
A man chosen before he took his first breath, who burned his own life down before he ever understood why. This is Samson, and before this is over, you're going to see yourself in him. Think about Steve for a second. 27 years old, gifted, smart, built for something bigger than where he's standing. But the environment he's in, completely against him. Wrong city, wrong crowd, wrong pressure. He's not failing because he's weak. He's failing because the system around him was designed to keep him down. Now take that feeling and multiply it across an entire nation. That's Israel. For 40 years, the Philistines owned them, not conquered them, owned them, controlled their economy, their weapons, their movement. Israel wasn't in a war. They were in a cage, and they had stopped expecting anyone to open it. And nobody was coming. Nobody was organizing a resistance. Nobody was drawing up a plan. They had settled into their chains so long the chains felt like clothing. But God doesn't wait for systems to change. He doesn't send armies when he can send a baby. He was already working. In a house nobody noticed. Through a woman nobody remembered. With a plan that looked like a love story and ended in fire. But here's what's interesting. God didn't raise up a general. He didn't send a prophet with a battle plan. He didn't organize the 12 tribes. He sent a baby, a very specific baby, to a very specific woman, with a very specific contract. And it starts here. Her name isn't in the record. The Bible doesn't give it to us. She is only Manoah's wife. But God knew her name. He showed up to her, not to her husband, not to the priest, not to the elders, to her. And the angel of the Lord stood in front of her and said, "You are barren and have not had children, but you shall conceive and bear a son. No razor shall come upon his head, for the child shall be a Nazirite to God from the womb, and he shall begin to save Israel from the hand of the Philistines." 3 rules. That's the entire contract. No wine, no alcohol, from birth. No razor to the head, ever. No contact with anything dead or unclean. 3 rules. 3 lines standing between this child and the fullness of what God placed inside him. You already see where this is going. The boy was born. They named him Samson. And the Spirit of the Lord began to stir. Not slowly, not like a tide coming in, more like a fire that finally found oxygen. He grew, and whatever was inside him grew louder. But here's what nobody tells you about being chosen. Being chosen doesn't protect you from yourself. The anointing covers the calling. It doesn't cover the character. Samson's greatest enemy was never a Philistine soldier. It was the part of him that always reached for exactly what he wasn't supposed to touch. And it surfaces, for the first time, on a road to Timnah. Samson goes to Timnah, Philistine territory, enemy soil, and there he sees a woman, a Philistine woman, and he doesn't ask questions. He goes home and tells his father, "Get her for me. I want her as my wife."
Samson, what has happened?
His father's face falls. "There is not one woman among all our people, not one, that you would choose. You have to go to the uncircumcised Philistines." Samson doesn't argue. He doesn't explain himself. He says one thing. "She is right in my eyes. Get her for me."
vow is sacred.
His parents didn't know. They couldn't see what he couldn't see. But the Bible pulls back the curtain for us. This was from the Lord. He was seeking an opportunity against the Philistines. God was setting up a collision. And Samson, with all his power, was just the instrument. The dangerous thing about being used by God is that you can be inside his plan and completely outside his wisdom at the same time. On the road to Timnah, something happens. Something Samson will keep secret for years. Something that tells him, for the first time, exactly what he's capable of. He's walking alone. No weapon, no companion. The vineyards stretch out on both sides. Quiet. And then, without warning, a young lion comes out roaring. Full charge. No time to run. No time to think. And the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him, powerfully, like something tore open from the inside. Samson grabbed the lion with his bare hands and tore it apart, the way you tear a young goat. He had no weapon. He didn't need one. And then, you know what he did? He told no one. Not his father, not his mother. He just kept walking to Timnah like nothing happened. He looked at his hands and didn't recognize them. The strength was real, but he didn't put it there. It had been placed inside him, and whatever had just happened was only a preview. Weeks pass. He goes back for the wedding, and on the road, he turns aside to where the carcass is, and inside the dead lion, something that stops him cold, a swarm of bees and honey. He scoops it out, eats it walking, brings some to his parents, doesn't tell them where it came from, but he stores it in the back of his mind, because Samson, for all his raw strength, had a poet's heart and a gambler's instinct, and he just got an idea. He's walking into a 7-day wedding feast. 30 Philistine men assigned to him as companions, not his friends, more like handlers. 30 men whose job is to make sure an Israelite doesn't cause a scene on Philistine turf. And Samson, still carrying the honey, still carrying the secret, is about to make a bet they cannot win unless someone cheats. Day 1. He looks across at 30 men who'd rather be anywhere else. And he says, "Let me tell you a riddle. If you explain it within the 7 days of the feast, I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothes. But if you cannot, then you shall give them to me." They take the bet. And then he leans in and says 7 words. 7 words that shut the room down. Out of the eater came something to eat. Out of the strong came something sweet. They had nothing. Day 1, nothing. Day 2, nothing. Day 3, day 4, day 5. 6 days of silence. And now the 30 men are desperate. 30 sets of linen is real money, real shame. And they are not about to lose to an Israelite. Not like this. On day 4, they make a decision. They don't go to Samson. They can't beat Samson. But there's someone else at this table. Someone Samson trusts. Someone Samson opened his home and his heart to. And they walk toward her. Because they've decided, if they can't crack the riddle, they'll crack the man who holds it. What they say to her is not a request. "Entice your husband to tell us the riddle, lest we burn you and your father's house with fire. Did you invite us here to impoverish us?" That's not persuasion. That's a threat. She's trapped between a husband she wants to keep and 30 men who will burn her family alive. So she does the only thing she knows how to do. She weeps every single day for 7 days. You hate me. You don't love me. You told your riddle to my people, but won't tell me. Day after day after day, until, on the last day, he breaks. He tells her. She tells them. Before sunset, they have the answer. Before the sun went down on day 7, 30 Philistine men walked up to Samson, smiling. What is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion? Samson looks at them, and he knows. He knows exactly how they got there, and what comes out of his mouth isn't grief. It isn't rage, not yet. It's a single sentence that hits like a knife. If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have found out my riddle. He called his wife a heifer at his own wedding, in front of everyone, not because the hurt wasn't real, but because it was. Then, the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him. He went down to Ashkelon, struck down 30 of their men, took their garments, walked back, dropped them in front of the 30 without a word, then turned around and walked away, in burning anger, back to his father's house. He left his wife behind, at the feast, with the people who threatened her, in a city that was never his. And back in Timnah, her father gave her to another man, because he thought Samson was never coming back. He was wrong. He still had no idea what Samson was about to do to all of them. Episode 2, coming soon. Subscribe now if you want cinematic Bible stories that feel real, human, and unforgettable, because Samson's story is only getting darker from here.